I just did a live. I just did a live about Spider-Man. And now I'm outside thinking about it. I remember playing this game, and what I didn't like about it was that the fact that they picked Negative Man. But now I'm starting to understand a little bit, because if you've played the game, he's not the main villain. He's a lead-in. And I think by the time that Negative Man is dispatched, there's so much other stuff to do and just playing around in the game that is just, you forget about him. But I think the presence of Negative Man and his weapon, which is bad air, is devil's breath, which means what people are saying to each other is like a poison. I think all of that is pointing to what they're trying to say with this story. What are they trying to say with this story? Pete, what really stands out is the fact that Peter Parker has a boss in Dr. Octopus. And through his research, he turns negative. I hate to say negative. He turns into a villain. And Dr. Octopus has a boss, in a way, in Norman Osborn. Who also turns negative. Norman Osborn is the main source of all the pollution in the story. His research, the irony is, his research is to heal his son. There's stuff with... It makes me want to go back and look at the villain encounters, because there's dialogue there. But what the story is saying, that the Kingpin, the main boss of all crime organization, is the Kingpin. And he goes away. I don't think this story is saying that the world needs a villain. The absence of the Kingpin creates all of this. Marvel Spider-Man. So, playing the game is fun. Playing Marvel Spider-Man is a lot of fun. I haven't given the story too much thought. The Wikipedia says exactly what happens in the story, but I think you actually have to play the game and see the cutscenes and the dialogue between the heroes and the villains of the story to actually understand what's happening. I went back and watched a couple scenes. It really is about, they decided to make a story about work. I think partially is because Peter Parker he is not appreciated. Spider-Man is known for having a hard time. Things don't go well for Spider-Man. And even though things never go well for Spider-Man, he's always showing up as the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. I think that's partially why they did that. I'm trying to, right now, there's the part of the story that's, I think, is important is the very end. The conversation between Peter Parker and Dr. Octopus. But there's this whole segment, this whole part of the story, which I think is a false lead. Well, there's a false villain. Not a false villain, but it's a false trail in Negative Man. But I think Negative Man is there to talk about tone or foreshadowing. I haven't put the words together yet. But there's this great, I want to talk about this. There's this great moment that makes me smile at the end of this game, where it's pure theater. Dr. Octopus is confronting his beneficiary, Norman Osborn. And it's everything he's always wanted to say to him. And Norman Osborn does the same thing. He tears Dr. Octopus up verbally. And then Dr. Octopus just drops him off the side of a building. And he screams, "Oh no." And Dr. Octopus leans in like, "Oh no, I just dropped him. And it's so operatic. The way they did it is extreme because they're heightened, they're yelling, and you see him fall, and then they take a long shot of him, of the figure of him falling, and it's cropped from another building, so you see he goes past the line. They don't show him dying, but he fell further than the bottom of the screen. And it makes me smile. Then all of a sudden his body is thrown into the foreground and he rolls towards the camera saying Spider-Man showed up and saved them. And then you see in the far distance the little body of Peter Parker running up the side of a building. And it's so campy and cheesy. But what's neat about it is that it feels like theater. It's a video game, but it feels like actual theater, like like they made a play at the Royal Opera House or something, and someone dropped the body from the ceiling, and he screamed no, and he fell down past the stage. And then they tossed him back up on stage and rolled towards the audience. And then in the background they put a little paper mache Spider-Man running up the wall. It's really neat. It's a really neat moment. So after that part, I think is the point of the whole story, where they focus on the relationship between Peter Parker and Dr. Octopus. And Doc Ock is broken at this point, where he can't move. And he wants the devil's breath. He wants the poison. I forgot. It's created by Norman Osborn to help Harry. And what it's doing is causing a disease and poisoning everyone to act like demons or something. And I think Doc Ock wants to take it to supercharge himself. But they give a speech where Dr. Octopus, it's a little confusing when you hear it. Well, it confused me a bit. And I think he's saying something about people don't appreciate the work that he's doing. He makes a statement about him and Peter being elevated above people and the people below him not appreciating all their hard work. And that because of that, he's now considering himself to be, I don't know. That's what I was saying. I don't quite understand it. Looking at the earlier parts of the story, my understanding is that, well, for one thing, Dr. Octopus is injured. And the mechanics of his spine equipment is affecting his brain. In the movies, it was a separate sort of AI that he talked to and told it what to do and whatnot. And it wasn't listening to him, and it was out of control. In the game, it seems like the same thing is happening. But there's things that happen. There's things that happen in the game, like Dr. Octopus having to hear from Norman Osborn about timetables of getting his work done. And then Peter Parker gets yelled at by Dr. Octopus about getting his work done. And then there's the Devil's Breath, which is Norman Osborn's work. And that gets stolen and corrupted and misused by Negative Man, who gets beaten by Spider-Man. And then Dr. Octopus releases all the villains to beat up Spider-Man. And then Spider-Man beats up all the villains. But what I'm focused on is what Dr. Octopus is saying, which is it's something about him being elevated and not appreciated. They're literally yelling at each other at this moment. Dr. Octopus is justifying himself as being Dr. Octopus, as being the villain that runs around and does his research, robs and steals and does whatever he wants. Because people don't appreciate it. So I guess it's a bit of I'm gonna take my ball and go home. So I've never thought about that. If what he's saying is I'm doing spinal research to help people, and Dr. Octopus is saying they don't appreciate us, Peter Parker. Just use this stuff for your benefit. Become Dr. Octopus. and live as an elevated emperor of some sort. I think Peter Parker is, I think Peter Parker is saying, no, Dr. Octopus. That's not why we do what we do. We do our work to help people. And then it points towards what Peter's doing in the story, which is he's working with Aunt May at Feast, which is a homeless organization feeding the homeless. And that's something without gratitude or gratuity. He shows up and he helps out, and someone's better afterwards. And on the other side of it is the devil's breath, which is the villains of the story wanting to release a disease or poison on the population so that they're not well. And with that, they can run amok and rob, cheat, and steal and be villains. So it is. So in this story, there's something about compensation. Dr. Octopus is upset when Norman Osborn pushes him to join Oscorp. He's close to finishing his research, and he needs funding. And later in the game, the Green Goblin yells at him, and he tears him apart, saying things like, your work isn't any good unless you're hanging out at Oscorp with me. So there's a bit of ego involved in this, of where people believe that their work is important. Their work is important, or they're good at it. It's really, I don't know, it's something. It's because to think of Norman Osborn is to think of failure. Where the Green Goblin will come up with all these amazing potions that make him strong and everything, and super smart. He figured out how to build it in a hang glider. He figured out jetpacks. He figured out super strength, all sorts of weird stuff, but it corrupted his mind. And he's done it again with the devil's breath. So I think the game is saying that you have to be, there's something about being in this certain mind frame, a certain mindset, when doing your work or good deeds. Because Dr. Octopus and Norman Osborn, when they try to do their research and their work, it collapses and becomes something awful. But when Spider-Man does his work, it's saving lives and it's the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And it's working at Feast. So that argument at the end of Dr. Octopus saying, "No, Spider-Man, they don't appreciate us." Enjoy the devil's breath. And then Spider-Man turns and says, "No, no." He says, "No." I kid you not. No, Dr. Octopus. They do value and care about us. So it's saying two things. Now I'm finding two things. It's saying something about the work that you do is good if you're good. If you have if your intention, that's tough. The road, because that's where Norman Osborn's failing. The road to good intentions. I forgot. It's the road of success is paved with good intentions. The road of disaster is something like that. The road of bad omens is paved with good intentions. So it's something about being valued and being in the mindset of wanting to do good. And there's something also to say about being appreciated. People appreciate the work of those who mean well. But it's not that, is it? Because Norman Osborn. Look at it's the trouble that Norman's caused that's getting in the way. He wants to heal Harry, and he's tearing up everyone. There's a level to this story that's also focusing on greed. When Norman Osborn is doing his work, it's I know it's for Harry too, but it's basically his own self-interest. He wants that for his son. That's his only son, and that's his progeny, and that's his legacy. So in a way, he's thinking of himself. And when things are going right in the story, it's Dr. Octopus doing his research for the benefit of everyone who's having spinal trouble. It's Peter Parker looking after the public, and it's Peter Parker working at Feast, which is also something done for the public. So there's something about ego and greed in the story of working for, is saying something about good work for the benefit of everyone. Your work will be appreciated. And I think it's something simple. Your good work for the masses will be appreciated, or something like that. Your good work for all will be appreciated. That's a really kind message.